Alright, so we're doing a seated versus standing / kneeling opponent now. So this is going to be seated guard, and then we're going to go into one that's supine guard. Alright, so just so you guys know, the rules of engagement for this role was if they could force me into any kind of supine guard, and step a foot to the inside, or if they could force a half guard or a body lock, for example, that would be a reset. If I could enter into any kind of ashigarami or X guard, that would be a win for me, because then you're effectively supine, and that's not what this instructional is about. All right, we're doing just seated now. So the rules of engagement for this would be if they can enter into a half guard or put me on my back for more than a few seconds, that would be a win for them and a reset. If I could enter into an ashigarami or an X guard, that would be a win for me, and that would be a reset. Okay, we're going to have seated is going to be most of the entries into X guard and ashigarami type games, and then the supine instructional is going to cover X guard sweeps, ashigarami sweeps, and Delahiva, reverse Delahiva, things like that. So I didn't want to get a ton of overlap there. All right. So if you'll see me a bunch of times here enter into an ashigarami X guard, and then just immediately stop, because I don't want to talk about the sweeps that I didn't show you guys. Okay. So now let's go into, as my first roll. We did 5 rolls here and 5 rolls for supine, so we got some really good material. A lot of ankle picking, both inside and outside, and some interesting sweeps from here. Enters into ashigarami, so it's gonna be real fun to watch this here. Okay, so this is the first roll. Okay, so you see how initially I'm always right in and controlling elbows, controlling wrists. I'm always dominating gripping exchanges. Okay, so he comes in. I use an ankle pick to get to 2 legs, enter into an ashigarami, and I sit him down. We come back up. You see constantly harassing the feet, moving towards the angle. He goes a step around, I'm always circling it to the point where he just was. And then eventually, as he goes around, I'm always going in and harassing those feet. So you see here, I did something very interesting where I went the ashi, and then I switched to a 2-on-1 and dragged him back into an ashigarami. So it's a lot to follow here. So he comes in, I go the ashi here. Now I go 2-on-1. As he goes to square, I take that 2-on-1, and as he gets pushed back into me to not avoid me coming up and sweeping him, I immediately come forwards, or I immediately pull him back into me as he comes forward, and now we're on the legs. And you see the whole time, again, always looking to bring feet inside and controlling ankles, or controlling either ankles or grips on my partner's upper body. You see the entire time, I'm always controlling those wrists, and then again, he's off balance. And then as soon as he goes to reset, I'm immediately grabbing ankles. All right, so let's take a look at that. So I got 2-on-1 elbow here. I pass an elbow by. I have 2 feet inside. I attempt a double koichi and he steps out. And as he steps out, that gives me the opportunity to go down to the ankles. So I go 2-on-1. I have 2 feet inside. I try to enter into an ashigarami, but he steps back. From this position, I try to go double koichi when he plants. He does a good job of V-gripping my ankle and stepping back. But as he steps back, he leaves 1 leg behind, and that allows me now to switch to an tewaza with my hand, where I grab the outside of the ankle. And now as he goes to reset, he leaves a 2nd leg behind and catch that leg. So I make a switch from leg to leg. You see that there? This is very important. So I start off initially by harassing both feet. Then I go to his left foot. I go to off balance him. He steps out, and then right to his right foot. Okay, so every time he steps out, I immediately go from foot to foot. So he immediately, off that double quiche, a failed double quiche. He steps his right foot out. I go left foot. He steps his left foot out. I go right foot. And now we're in the legs. Okay, so it's constantly going between bridging the upper body gap, bridging the gap between upper body and lower body. Feet, ankle, or wrist, ankles, wrist, ankles, wrist, ankles. And now we're into an Ashigarami once again from shin to shin, into an X guard, and that's a win for me. And you see this subtle leg pommeling here. Okay, so first you'll notice, so Placido now is coming in, and he's right leg forward, so I switch to my right hip. And now from this position, he goes to come forwards, and I'm always looking to bring elbows across. He goes to reset. And now, as he goes to step in, notice my left leg pommels inside, shin to shin. So he pommels a second time. And I still have my legs to the inside. Okay, so you're always looking to fight. As he looks to leg pommel, you have to pommel your legs back to the inside this entire time. Okay, you can't allow your partner to just step his leg to the inside. So see, I'm always pommeling to keep my 2 feet and knees close together so I can dominate the inside position. And now he enter into Ashigarami and immediately switch to X and put his hands on the floor. See, constantly upper body, lower body. 2-on-1. Sticky hook, I try to enter into his right leg here. He pulls that right leg out. And then I go left leg right away. Because it's always upper body, lower body, upper body, lower body. He goes to step in, I scoot back. And we're into an X guard once again. Okay, so you see how I'm pinching my 2 knees together? I want you guys to just understand something quickly. Okay, you see this position here? This position isn't really a good position to put yourself in, where you constantly have your knees like this, because then your partner can just shoot outside your legs. But Placido was so obsessed with stepping a leg to the inside that he forgot about outside passing. Because right now, he can easily just push my legs to the side and hop to the outside and outflank me. Alright, but I knew he wasn't going to do that because he wasn't trying to do that before. So I knew that he was just concerned with getting his feet to the inside. So my thing was always to pinch my 2 knees together so that I could always maintain the inside position. So the second he went to go step, I just point my knees in either direction, and my 2 knees end up on the inside of his 2 knees, and then I can enter into an Ashigarami. Right? But typically, you don't want to be playing games where you have your 2 knees crushed together for a long amount of time, because the second you bring your 2 knees together, then your partner can just shoot outside your legs in one direction, start crushing your legs together and outflanking you. Okay, so this generally isn't a good idea. But if you only have a guy who isn't feinting that well with the lead foot and trying and giving genuine attempts to go to the outside passing, you can always bring your knees together like this. All right, assuming your partner's not going to just jump to an outside pass. And you see there, I tried it again a little bit, and then my knees had to open back up. And let's take a look at that. So we go drag. As we go drag, he steps a foot inside. This is more supine stuff, but we'll take a look at it. I bump him forward, and as I bump him forward, notice I subtly bring 2 feet to the inside. So let's see. He starts with a foot inside. How do I get a foot inside? So he has a foot inside. Right now we're in outside De La Hiva. He's in a inside foot straight hamstring. Okay. So from here, as I bump him forward, take a look at my left foot up here. My left foot pommels to the inside. It's very subtle. Now I have 2 feet to the inside. So I dominate the inside position. Now from here, I'll have to start coming up, and then I make a pass off very subtly where I switch his ankle across the body and create back exposure. So here, he goes to come in, and I just hollow body, so I back my hips away, and just shoot that arm across, make a pass off to my left hand. Now this back exposure, we can come up and start to go into our attacks. Okay, let's take a look at that. That was a beautiful diashi, a combination of ashiwaza and teiwaza there, where, again, I'm circling, not straight back. So you see how he goes a step inside. You see how I don't move directly in a straight line. I'm kind of circling around the mat. It's very subtle. It's not too much of an angle change, but notice I'm facing this direction. Okay. When I finish, I'm going to be somewhere over here. So I move back 1, back 2, and now I start to create an angle. So as he goes to step again, I take an angle, and now instead of my back facing out in this direction somewhere, my back's facing out towards that wall. So I'm circling to where he just was. All right. If we take a look at this, Palacio starts over here. All right, I end somewhere over here. And so as he goes to follow me, I'm not backing up straight this way towards the end of the camera angle. I'm circling back around towards the Bernardo Faria sign. So that as he goes to step, he goes 1, he goes to step again, and now I pommel. Notice the foot positioning. I have 1 foot to the inside, and I switch it to the outside. So I've relinquished the inside right foot positioning to gain the inside right knee positioning. I have a foot to the inside, I move back, and now I pommel my leg to the outside. So now, as he goes to start stepping around again, this is when I start out flanking him with the rotation to move to where he just was. Now as he goes to step another time, here it comes, he's off balance. That initial kazushi is all we need. Now as he goes to correct himself, he has to lean all the way onto his right foot to step and replace that and place that left foot to where he needs to be on balance. And the second he goes to lean all that weight to that foot to readjust, I immediately grab. And now from here, as I get a hold of it, we bring legs back inside. And plus I did a good job of pommeling there. So I have shin to shin here. Palacio did a great job of pommeling his legs across and pommeling his right leg out. And then we ended up in a position where we were almost off camera and I was supine, so we reset. So now he's dropping down to his knees. Okay, so again, he tries to bring a knee inside. Smart idea for him, trying to push me into half guard, and constantly fighting to get the feet back to the inside, monitoring the hips, and now I have hands on him. All right. Once again, we're always looking to have that head, getting the head over the elbow, and throwing into the upper quadrant, somewhere over here. So we have that strong lifting action. We have that forehead down to the floor, open over the elbow. We have that left leg somewhere down here where we can't see, looking to throw, looking to lift the hips up and off the floor, and he goes up and over. Now we're going to start dragging, and we use a drag to enter the legs, and then eventually to knock him over. So we create a dilemma between using the arm drag to take his back or elevate him. He bases out by stepping up a leg. Because he steps that leg up, now we can easily pull the foot out from underneath him, and then get a knee behind that leg. And now from here we use that butterfly hook to start elevating him out and over that hip to start knocking him down to a hip, and we can easily come up on top. I'm going to cover that position a lot in the supine series. Here, this is a very, very important position. It's one of the main pillars of my bottom guard game, because a lot of my leg lock entrances come from this position, from knocking a guy down to a hand or knocking him down to a hip. Right? Most of my leg entrances come from some form of variation of this. All right. So this is gonna be. I spent a lot of time on this in the supine instructional. Okay, so now I gave him an underhook, but I controlled the far side wrist. Okay, so you see, I'm trying to force him into an underhook, and I always make sure the second he goes into an underhook, I always make sure that he can never actually pull my hips into him. So initially, where I'm square, so I put a hip post. I post in the hip with my foot, so he can't pull my hips in. The second I start to create an angle, this left foot here is going to go from a post to a hook. So the second I start to create an angle, so you see now I fell down to my right hip. So right now my hips are square. I have to avoid him sitting me down to a hip, okay, or sitting me down to my back and pulling me in and body locking me. So I manage the distance through that left foot. If he tries to bring his hips in close to mine, he can't because of that left foot. You saw this a lot in the Bushation match. This is especially effective against very explosive guys. Okay? But the second I start to create an angle out to my right, the direction I want to sweep him, that's exactly when you start to see me transition from being square and two butt cheeks to my right hip, and then that hook, or that post, moves to a hook. So now I have him going where I want. You can't see because of the angle. I have his far wrist control so he can't base out on the mat. And now from here we always have that lifting action. So we have one lifting leg and one leg to bridge to start to get my hips up and off the floor and really take him up and over like we want to. And now from here, he goes up and over, and we win that battle for top position. You'll notice a lot when I play this seated guard, I talk a lot about keeping the inside position. Notice the collar tie that I'm playing on Placido here. This is very important because this does a really good job being used as both a pulling and a pushing grip. Okay, I can both push Placido backwards to force a reaction where he either falls over to his butt and gets knocked over and swept, or pushes back into me, and I can pull him as he pushes into me. So I can use this as a pull-push, and it gives me the inside position with my elbow relative to his shoulder. Okay, so it makes it hard for him to come forwards and body lock me and get that inside position and lock his hands around my hips, okay, which is what he wants to do. I play a lot with this collar tie going back and forth between pulling, pushing, forwards, backwards, side to side, snapping to my armpit, things like that. All right, so this is a very important grip that we're gonna be talking about a lot here. And again, I'm always looking to put the head over the elbow and down to the floor. So that collar tie is what allows me to do that. So I see he tries to put an underhook in, and I have such control of that tricep where now I change direction. So we're square. I forward shift him. So you see the key here is the fact that he's crowding me, and he goes to move out and away, and I extend with the right leg. Now the second he goes to push back into me is when he's giving me his weight. So as he pushes into me, that's when I take advantage of the fact that he's coming towards me, and that's when everything goes up and over the elbow quickly, and we can take him over. So notice he's backing away here. The second he goes to come back into me, he gets taken over. Okay. And notice every time he tries to get a knee inside, I'm closing my two knees together. And as he opens his knees up, I open my knees up. So now I go drag, I get that arm across, and once again, we play that upper body, lower body game, where he avoids the drag by stepping up a leg, and that gives me my perfect ashi entrance. Now, once I enter initially, I start to get him off balanced by taking his hands up to the floor, and now from here, I use that butterfly hook to start knocking him down to the mat. And now we're in that position again where I talked about, where we're going to talk about this exact position in the supine instructional. So again, that collar tie and a switch into a cross ashi. So this time, I went to go elevate him up. As I went to go elevate him up, you see that slight turn in his hips there? He posts the hands, and he tries to pommel his feet by turning his hips. But just a slight change in the stance of your hips, just that slight stagger is all I need to go into a cross ashi. Trying to catch it. You see his hip is centimeters below the other. His left hip is slightly lower than his right, and his knee is starting to come inside of his hip here. That knee and hip position is all I need to create an angle to take my tailbone out to point towards his far armpit, lock across Ashigarami, and easily sit him down to the floor there with two legs controlled. Take a look at that. So he goes to come in. You see I blocked his foot midair. Okay, so now I have the sole of my foot on the front of his shoelaces. As he goes to step, you notice he can't step in the direction he wanted to step. This forces him to take a secondary cross step. So he tries to initially take a cross step right across my body. He can't do that. So now he steps back to the outside. So he steps back square in front of me. Now I know that he was just going in that direction. Okay, so he was just trying to pass to my right. I know that he's most likely going to try that again once he clears that post with the foot. So he clears that post with the foot. Now he posts two hands on my knees. Whenever there's two hands on the knees, you know it's coming next. He's going to try to take an outside step. Okay. So there's two dead giveaways here. The first is that he tried to go in that direction. So he tried to take a cross step across my body. Okay, so the foot blocked him. Once he clears that grip on the foot, it's pretty easy for him to go try it again and step across. Okay, so that's the first cue that he's going to step in that spot again. All right. The second cue is that he posts my knees right after that, and he still has the right foot forward. All right, so you know he's going to go knees to the side and cross step. All right, a lot of this is just experience and timing as well. All right, I'm not particularly fast or athletic or anything. Notice the second he steps his foot there, my hand is already on the ankle. It's because I knew where he was going to step. It's not because he stepped there and I was like, oh, there's a foot. I knew where he was going to go before he stepped there. Okay, so the second his foot came across, I'm already right at the ankle. All right, so let's take a look. He goes across a second time, and now I immediately scoot out and away and immediately catch. All right, so notice I never go straight back. So right now, my tailbone is pointing somewhere out towards the corner of the screen here. As Placido goes to step, now my tailbone is facing towards the camera angle. So that means Placido started somewhere over here. I started somewhere over here. When we finish, I'm going to be almost where Placido just was. Okay, so I circled into that space, not quite there. I circled in the direction that Placido was originally facing. That the second he went to go step again, he wasn't in front of me anymore. He tried to outflank me, but I essentially outflanked him by moving in the same direction, moving towards where he just came from. So as he went to go outflank me, I outflanked him where my head was outside of his knee, and I just immediately came in and picked the ankle. And then I came up and went back into an Ashigarami. So let's take a look at that full sequence one more time. And we're up. And you see, none of my movements are particularly explosive here. It's just timing with the hands and knowing where the placements of the body parts are going to be. You see I'm pretty relaxed here. I just catch, I come up nice and slow, I go back nice and slow. And you see there's no real explosivity or urgency for me. It's just knowing where he's going to be and how to precisely place grips. You see that time he was caught up in the gripping exchanges. So you see I have a 2-on-1 elbow here. He steps the leg up to compensate for that 2-on-1 elbow to try to strip that grip and pull out and away. The second the leg comes up, we go from attacking the upper body, he's worried about the 2-on-1, and now we're on the lower body. All right, let's take a look at that. So Placido does a great job. This is messed up actually, because Placido does a really good job of palming his legs so they have to be, and I just counter and immediately sweep his legs out. So if you notice here, I do a good job of staying shin to shin. Okay. Now what Placido wants is to pommel his left leg to a position where he's not shin to shin, where he can start to outflank me in that direction. Okay, so what he wants to do is to get his left knee, in this case, outside my left knee. Okay, so right now his left knee is inside my left knee, but my left foot, or sorry, his left knee is inside my right foot, or my right knee, but my right foot is inside his left ankle. Okay, what he's going to try to do is to get that that left foot of his inside my right ankle and then to the outside of my far leg. And there's a lot to digest, but that's what he's trying to do. Okay, so let's see what he does here. So he pommels, does a great job of starting to move into an outflank here. Where now from here, I don't have shin to shin anymore, there's no chance of an Ashigarami. And now from here, if he posts on my knee, he can start to outflank me and step past my hip line. That's what he wants to pass my guard. But because he pommeled outside that leg, he moves right into a Diashi now. So there's no shin to shin entrance into Ashigarami, but there's a Diashi coming. I hit that initial Diashi, I get him off balance, and this is so clean here. The second I get him off balance, once again, so I get him off balance with the Diashi, my left leg versus his left leg. The second he goes to replant with that right leg, I immediately come up and I go outside ankle. Okay, my head's inside of his knee. I go outside ankle and I immediately pull his foot towards me and then I make a pass off to left hand. So instead of him planting and then stepping again, the foot just goes one, he thinks he's going to step, and then as he goes to put that weight down and put weight over that leg to step, I pull the second, I hit the second switch, the pass off, and pull his leg right out from underneath him. So it goes right hand, left hand, and he's gone. Okay, so that was a very advanced, very intricate sequence there. Okay, Plasko did a great job of pommeling his legs, but I just followed well with the shin to shin. So he pommels, Diashi, 1-2, and set. And he realized right there, like, you know, that definitely shouldn't have happened there. But I hit a nice counter to his counter, and now he's down. Right, so right into his shoulder crunch here. So you try to go in. I hit an initial Sumigashi. When you hit the initial Sumigashi, it always forces the limb extension on the opposite side. So you're always disrupting, just because you're forcing him to the left side, and you're playing with his right hand, or sorry, to his right side and playing with his right arm here, doesn't mean that the left arm is going to stay stabilized. So the left arm will always come out of place. So you see initially, he's doing a good job of keeping his weight back and his elbows closed. His elbows are relatively tight from here. The second I go to off balance him, that elbow opens up. And now from here, as he goes to base out, we can go in, we can switch to a shoulder crunch and move back in the opposite direction. And now he does a good job basing out with his legs. So we go Hizaguruma down by in between the hip and the knee and sit him down to the floor. Okay, so we go one direction up to the upper left quadrant. And now from here we go opposite direction, upper right quadrant, and we go Hizaguruma with a sticky hook and take him over for the last sweep of that roll. All right, so a lot going on there. But you'll notice throughout the rolls, it's a lot to do with timing, knowing where the guy's going to step, and being precise in the gripping strategies that you have. All right, so round 2 here against Jack. Keep in mind, just so you guys know, we did the supine and the seated rolls back to back. So when you guys are watching this, just understand that this was filmed. There are 5 5-minute rounds for seated guard. So I'm doing 25 minutes straight with fresh guys. And then a second round at the end of the supine, another 25 minutes with fresh guys. So basically, I did 50 minutes of straight rolling, getting shark tanked by fresh guys. The only way that you can do what I'm doing from bottom position is to be efficient in all of your movements. Okay, if you're exploding this way and that way and this way and that way, you're going to be noticeably exhausted a few rounds in, and your efficiency and your rate of sweeps are going to drastically decrease. Okay, the reason why I'm able to do this for long amounts of time isn't because I'm much bigger or stronger. It's because everything I'm doing is so precise it takes very little energy. So you don't really see me getting tired in these. Okay, so just keep that in mind as you're going. Or it's not because I'm fast and coming up and sweeping legs. It's just because I have the timing out. I know where hands and legs are going to be, and I'm forcing reactions, as we go here. I'm not really anything special as far as what I'm doing. It's just everything I'm showing you guys, but very essentially perfect. Okay, so you see the initial stickiness there. So I have an Ashigurami, or I have a shin to shin rather, and we enter in. I block. So you see here, this is more along the lines of guard retention, just so you guys know. And I'm going to cover a lot of this stuff in retention, where it's counters to his attacks. As he goes to step in here, notice I block initially with the wrong shin. All right, so I block. I go right foot, and then I go left. Oh, sorry, go back. Oh, no, I did it the right way. Sorry. So we go shin to shin. He goes to follow through, have that initial stickiness. Now as he goes to come up towards me, I pull the leg out another time. And it's just that little extra kazushi where he doesn't know where he's stepping. He thinks he's stepping here, and he's stepping an inch or two forward. And that really can off balance, has a really great off balancing effect. So this time he comes in. And he tries to put a left arm underhook in. The problem is that left arm underhook, I have all the inside position with my feet. So that underhook becomes a liability. So he tries to initially punch right arm underhook in like so, and I block that wrist. I'm waiting for him to come towards me so I can Sumigeshi right side, but he puts his head in place. So it's hard for, he's not really giving me his weight here. So he makes a choice to switch, and I let him switch. Where now his head moves to the opposite side, and now I can start bleeding my stance to get his head offline. And now from here, I immediately go overhook, I grab that wrist, and now I put his forehead to the floor, and we're up and over. Okay, you can see, it's very hard to see on camera there, but he goes to step in, and we go shin to shin. Right? From this position, I don't just push him backwards. There's a very subtle pull forwards to get his weight back onto his heels. Okay? If he's leaning forwards into you and you try to go double or you try to hit a koichi, he's not going to fall backwards because all of his weight's leaning forward. So I pull him forward ever so slightly to get his weight transferring from his toes to his heels. And the second I feel that, that's my cue to hit the koichi backwards. So I pull him forwards, and then he pulls back. I don't even know if you can see it here on camera. I just get him pulling forward, so you see I'm trying to pull him into me, and the second he goes to move back and away, that's when we go koichi. So you see I'm pulling him forward. You see how his weight is transferring from his toes, keep an eye on this foot, from his heels to his toes. It's very, very subtle. You see his heels come down, and then his heel come up. His heel come down, and his heel come up. So see, his heels down, heels up. Heels down, and now we go. Okay, so it's very, very subtle. You would never notice it unless I pointed it out to you. Just notice the toes come up, toes come down, toes come up, toes come down. That's the weight transferring front to back. And when the weight transfers back, that's when you hit the koichi. Okay, so look, let's give it a shot. Toes up, toes down, toes up, and now we can hit a sweep. All right, so it's very, very subtle here. Okay, let's take a look at that. So again, just traditional Sumigeshi. He comes in, We go collar tie. Oh. We go collar tie and look to start getting his head to the floor. He does a good job of basing on that knee, so it's hard for me to start taking him out and over. But because his opposite elbow comes out of place, which it almost always does, we can always get underneath that far arm. And now we switch. I had a choice to go to a shoulder crunch or a pinch headlock, but I already did a shoulder crunch in the match before, so I went to a pinch headlock instead. Now from this position, I started pushing that leg out from underneath him with a Hizaguruma action. Now I'm pretty sure he just falls over from this position. Or no, I sit up actually. And switch to a triangle. Okay, so I could have went back shoulder crunch the opposite direction, but I wanted to keep the roll going. So we go pinch headlock. We forward shift, and now I control that wrist as soon as we come up. Alright, so now from here that I have control of that wrist, it's easy for us to throw a triangle into place and work from there. And double Koichi. Take a look at that. Okay, so he fakes to go to the outside, tries to feint to come to the inside, but I have 2 feet together. And then he opens up his legs and exposes his own center line to myself. And now he can come, he goes down to the floor. Okay, so he goes to step in. I pull the heels back to the butt, so I meet him shin to shin. And now he's staggered, and then he goes to adjust, and double Koichi gets him falling back down towards the floor. Also, you guys will notice that a lot of the times from this position, I'm playing with, I go back and forth between my left hip and my right hip down, regardless of what leg he has forward. All right, I didn't teach this to you guys yet because it's very, very advanced. But basically, the idea is if you play with the left hip, if you play with the wrong hip down, yes, he can outflank you, but you're baiting him to set up a Diashi Harai. Okay, so what that means is if we're in position here, so just to give you guys an example, if he's left leg forward, I'm on my left hip. So technically, if he's he's right leg forward, I'm on my left hip. Technically, from here, if he has his left leg forward, I should have my left leg forward, and I should be monitoring my partner. Or sorry, if he has his right leg forward, I should have my right leg forward, monitoring his right leg. Okay, right now I'm on my left hip, so technically I'm on the wrong hip. So he should be able to pretty easily from here outflank me in this direction, which he can. But I wanted to show you guys the effectiveness of the Diashis and the Teiwazas with the hands. So I was baiting everyone to try to outflank me. So the second they would go to outflank me, so I'm standing here. The second they would go to start outflanking me, I can immediately go in and hit Diashis with either foot. Okay, so I was baiting them a lot of times. Whenever you see me sitting in the wrong stance, I'm basically just baiting a Diashi Harai. Okay, so you can stand, you can sit with your opposite hip down occasionally if you know what you're doing and you're confident you're not going to get outflanked. But it takes a lot of experience to be able to do that. There's the Diashi, or there's the double Koichi. And there's a Sumikishi once again. So we come in, and notice, I'm playing with his legs, he's keeping his legs back, and then I go right in and I get that forehead over the elbow. Now from here, once the forehead goes over the elbow, the forehead comes down to the ground and he's up and over. All right, and a lot of times you see me not really pushing off this leg too much and getting my hips way off the ground because the guys are just going over pretty easy. It was just training. If you have a really resistant opponent, you have to get that hip way off the floor with that drive leg. Now, you see he's a leg inside. I back up just enough to where I can block it with the sole of my foot, where now he can't reinsert it, and I switch shin to shin. I attempt a Diashi Harai. Sorry, attempt double Koichi. And I use that to start elevating him to get a leg to the inside. Try to enter into cross hashi. That fails. He posts his leg on the floor. And now as he goes to start coming forwards towards me, he thinks he's going to lean that weight to that front leg and take a second step with this left leg. So as he goes to lean the weight on that right leg, I pull it out from underneath him. Okay, so the head's outside. I switched from an outside grip to an inside grip. I get that slight kazushi, which makes a big difference. And now we start with that right leg. He pulls that right leg out. I try to go left leg. I just miss with that left leg. And as he goes to pull that left leg back, I come forward with a second shot, right hand, and I catch. So, right leg's gone, left leg misses, left leg moves back, right leg comes in. This is just textbook here. So, 1, 2 fail, 3. Alright, let's check it out again. So he just basically leaned his head over too far that time. So I got the head over initially, and now I went basically double overhooks because his head wasn't, I couldn't get his head quite to the floor. So I switched double overhooks, and now I use that to take him up and over. And this time, because his double overhooks is a little less mechanically advantageous, I took my my hips off the floor to actually come through and get the sweep this time. So I went from the head, where I didn't really have a strong collar tie. So you see the collar tie isn't that strong because my elbow's not inside his shoulder. You see the elbow's not really outside go back a little bit. I initially catch, and the collar tie was never that strong because the elbow was never inside the shoulder. So I switched right to double overhooks, and then I started driving up and over to get the hips on top. You see that time he avoided the Ashigurami entrance on the Ashi entrance on the near leg, but exposed the far leg. So he tried to pommel his second leg to protect his primary leg, and then he gave me that second leg for the cross-hashi entrance. And double cleat off the collar tie. So you see that just subtle pull back there? So I go collar tie, he goes to pull back. And that's when you come in and sit him down to the floor. So I go collar tie. The collar tie is what forces him to pull back. So you see, he tries to come towards me. The collar tie pulls him in, a slight pull, and then a push in the shoulders. And we get him knocked down, immediately grabbing the legs and coming up. And Sumigeshi. So you see here, he's worried about the legs, me entering into the legs. So what he does is he leans all of his weight to that side to try to shoot that leg back. So he addresses the one issue, which is me entering into his legs. So he tries to get his head in the way, he tries to shoot that leg back, but as he does that, now he allows me to switch to a collar tie, grab an elbow, and get that head over the elbow, get the forehead down to the floor, and take him up and over. Okay, you see that transition there? Lower body, upper body, lower body. Went for the lower body. Lower body shoots it back and away. Lower body fails. Upper body is always available. I go for a drag. Upper body pulls away. Lower body is always available. You have to have that ingrained in your mind. Upper body, lower body, upper body, lower body. You go for the lower body, it's not there. The upper body's always there. You go for the upper body, it's not there. The lower body's over there, always there. It's always going to be there. If the legs are far away from you, the head and arms are always there. If the head and arms are far away from you, the legs are always there. Alright, so now you see he's starting to wise up to the fact that I'm trying to elevate him over the shoulder. So what he does now when I grab that wrist is he posts his leg out for base and he sags all of his weight down to his far hip, the right hip. So now all of his weight is concentrated over here. So now when I try to lift over the right shoulder, it's not impossible, but it becomes much more difficult from here. If I would have drove over or lifted my hips up off the ground and drove off the ball of my foot here, I would have taken him over. But it's much easier to just go back to the opposite side because he wants to drive all of his weight down to that right hip, and I let him. As he does that, I push the head back over the far elbow. I control that arm, and now the forehead's over the elbow, forehead's over the elbow. The forehead comes down to the ground, and now he's up and over. So we go one way, he sits his weight back all the way in the opposite direction, and he switch back the other way. Enter into Ashigarami again. Again, you see how whenever I enter in, it's hard for these guys to pommel out because I'm never falling back in a straight line. I'm always rotating towards their far foot. Okay, so as I go, you see there's always a rotational aspect where my head moves towards their far leg. I don't just fall straight down to my back here. My head's always moving around in this direction. And as I go, there it goes. I'll just fall straight back in this direction. And now I can easily enter into the legs there. You see just those slight off balances every time. You see it's just so hard to get away from. So we come in. And you see now I'm doing more of a conventional game where he's right foot forward and I'm right hip blocking his foot. Okay, because now I'm trying to show you guys some other stuff. Before we were focusing on Diashis, now we're focusing on just conventional double Koichis and more back to ankle grabs. Okay, so we come in, we block a foot, we go upper body, the upper body goes to pull away, and now we go to the ankle. He does a good job of kicking out, but now he's in a terrible position to be able to do anything. He's facing almost completely away from me. So while he did pull out of the first initial pick, now he's in a position where he's completely disoriented, and now I grab the ankle again. Now from here, as I grab, I pull back, and he's expecting to step, somewhere over here. But as I grab the ankle, I pull it further than he expected to step. So you see, he tries to put his weight down. It's very subtle, but he tries to put his foot down, and I pull it further than where he wanted it to go. As I pull it, now I fight my feet back to the inside. So I go sole the foot inside. He goes to pull away, and I hit a second catch where I pull his foot just a little bit further, and I make a pass off because my one hand was slipping. See, my fingertips are slipping off here. So instead of pulling it again, having the fingers slip, I pull and switch, and that's what gives us the sit down. Okay, so let's take a look at that one more time. One, failed. Two, failed. 3, 4, and he's down. Now again, same dilemma. I try to sweep one way, he bases. So he sets everything back towards that far hip and starts to elongate his body and tries to bring everything back towards that left side. And as he does that, it makes it easy now for me to switch from one side to the other. And he's right over. And again. So I go inside. Again, stepping just a little bit, so he's off balanced. Now I pummel my head to the outside to avoid collar tie. So we go head initially, outside, we come in, now head goes to the outside and then back to the inside for the actual sweep. So bop, 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 having fast hands. So now drag, and he avoided the cross-ashi entrance by just rolling over to bottom position. So I tried to enter into cross-ashi with the drag, but he didn't put any weight down on his hips. He kind of just fell over to avoid the cross ashi, and I ended up with top position. See a couple of failed picks there. He's kind of getting wise, but as he pulled away from the drag, I came in and went to a second pick once again. So the drag comes in, he steps up, he pulls away from the drag, and the pick makes it easy. All right, and that's the second roll. All right, so third roll here with Drew. He's doing a good job of pommeling his legs, you see, never staying in one spot, making it hard to monitor those legs, keeping hands on my feet. But you see I'm constantly feinting, going upper body, lower body. And now we're in shin to shin, and we enter it to the leg. So let's look at that entry. So it's just about forming a connection to the person. Okay, so now we have a connection to the upper body. Now we have a grip on the ankle. Now we have one shin. We had a grip around the calf with the right hand. He went to go pull away, and he left his right leg behind, so I can get a grip with my left hand. So you see, I initially went to create a connection with my right hand on his left leg. Here. So you see we're kind of shin to shin now. He yanked that leg back and left the right leg behind. And now I'm able to go in and enter into an Ashigarami. And again, all the Ashigarami X guard stuff is going to be in Simpan. This time he comes down. I try to get the head over the legs here. I have the head over the elbow here. As I do that, the collar tie doesn't do a good job of getting the head up and over the elbow. So instead, we go in and we enter always that forearm. Once again, I mean, this time we move right to his shoulder crunch. He did a good job of stepping his legs up and stopping me from bringing him to the right side. He pushed back over the left side, so I went reverse collar tie, crunched his chin to his chest, and again, got that forehead to the mat. So he comes in. I go Hizaguruma with the left leg, push that leg out, and now I tuck that head underneath him, forcing him into a front roll, and put his forehead on the floor and taking him over very nicely. You see constantly grip fighting, constantly leg pommeling. And you see he's kind of just in my face the whole time, so there's not as many Diashi Hirais and things like that from here. And nice sumi right there. Okay, so this one's a standing sumigashi, but he's leaning so far forwards into me. As long as I can get the head over the elbow, that's all that matters. And now from here when he goes to base, he can't because there's so much weight over that arm, it's difficult. And now it's just a matter of getting the forehead to touch the floor, and he's up and over. Okay, so just because the guy is down on this standing doesn't mean you can't hit a sumigashi. If he leans forward into you with his head and shoulders like that, you can always hit a sumigashi. So you get the head over the elbow, forehead down to the floor, and he's up and over. Failed Diashi there. You see how I got him off balance? and then tried to switch off to a Tewaza. So the Diashi gets him off balance, and I attempted to switch to a Tewaza here, but I was a little bit high towards the calf, and it slipped out. You see just constantly feinting between the upper body and the lower body. So every time you move a hand, which isn't much, you get a reaction. I feint. He steps back. I feint to the other hand. He steps the leg back. I feint, steps the leg back, and then I switch legs. So feinting, feinting, feinting. One leg, he retracts. Second leg, right away. So I grab his right leg first with an inside grip. Okay, that gets him off balance. Now, as he goes to retract that right leg, I switch left leg. And now from here, you drag him in, and we just happen to fall into a position where I was ready to sweep him right away from Oshiro X. Once again, that upper body, lower body dilemma. Drag fails, go to the legs. Drag fails, upper body's away, and what's there? The legs. Upper body pulls away, legs are there. We go in, we pick, switch to a 2-on-1, pull him into Ashi as he comes back. So, 1-on-1, 2-on-1, take it to the outside hip, and pull him into Ashigarami, and sit him down. Okay, let's take a look at that. So constantly harassing 2-on-1 grips. And just as we spoke about in guard passing, you should always be looking to win the grip fighting battle when you're passing. Like, there's no reason I should be able to take 2-on-1s and all these kinds of different grips and passing elbows across from bottom position. So from top, your obligation is to win the grip fighting sequences. From bottom, your obligation is to win the grip fighting sequences. So I'm going 2-on-1 double Koichi, fail. So I go ankle, outside, catch, switch to a 2-on-1, pull him across into Oshiro X, and sit him down. So 2-on-1, Diashi. That Diashi is what starts things. Diashi got him off balance. I catch, and notice there's no Kimuras, there's no guillotines, there's nothing from here because I still have control of that wrist. There. Okay, there's no offense he can do from here because even though I'm reaching towards him, there's an elbow completely across the center line. There's not much he can do from here. Right? That's why it's very important to hold grips until you have another secure grip. Okay? What I don't want is to be reaching it to get countered in front heads and rolling Kimuras and things like that. I always want to keep the inside position and constantly have grips on my partner until I can get hands across and get to that leg. So I go 2-on-1 to an outside grip, to a 2-on-1, to Oshiro X. Then he goes to get up. I give that additional Kazushi. So you see he tries to step that left leg heavy. I pull out once again. So he thinks he's going to step, and the leg goes by. And now he falls over. And he gave me his weight there. And I went again. We get the head open over the elbow initially. He actually did a good job of basing, but the collar tie forced his chin to his chest, and he kind of just rolled over. He didn't really have to go over on that one. He kind of realized it and laughed like it's just a mistake on his part, but he did go over nonetheless. See, double Koichi constantly harassing the feet. And you see he's always stumbling all over the place. That makes it easy to bring legs inside. When the guy's stumbling, has no idea where he's going, that's what you want. He's stumbling here. He's stumbling here. He's stumbling there. And then 2 feet come to the inside easy. Alright, so let's take a look at this. So I'm reaching, I go double Koichi, and get him off balance, and again I'm stepping. And then we have a foot, we have sticky hooks in place. So it all started with double Koichi. Double Koichi, boom. He spreads his knees, and he turns his knees, as we talked about, he turns his knees out to point in one direction. Okay, so we're in here. Double Koichi fails, he points his knees. You see his foot here? He points his 2 knees out in this direction. So both of his feet are pointing in this direction. This makes the double Koichi fail, but makes the Ashigarami entrance easy. So we go in, he points the knees, and then we go right into attacks on his legs. And then again, those sticky hooks make it so difficult for him to backstep or to do anything from there. It's very, very important to be sticky, have that initial stickiness when you're training with your partner. And once again, double Koichi sets everything up. He leaves one leg behind, so he steps the leg out. I come forward, and we get to a leg. I make a pass off to a 2-on-1, and now we're in our Shiro X again. And again. This time he did a good job sprawling. So, double Koichi. Catch, pass, 2-on-1, Shiro X. A lot of back exposure there, obviously. I let him reset. I get him off balance again. This time he sprawls. I reset. And I hit a Sumigachi this time because he did step inside, but I was able to crunch his chin to his chest and elevate him up. This is really, he didn't really have to go over on that. He could have just drove his knee to one side and fixed himself, but kind of just his mistake there. Now I got a drag going on. Tried to go for a pick, but he brought everything inside and did a good job of recovering. Now you see something very interesting happened here. See that? In all the other Sumigachi series that we looked at so far, you go overhook Sumi, wrist, one side, collar tie, elbow, other side. It's taken everybody over 100% effective. Been 100% effective so far. Why did it fail this time? Because he adjusted. What most people do is they lean their weight from one side to the other and they don't adjust accordingly as I switch sides. So what most people do is they lean all their weight over their right hip in this case, so I can't throw them over my right shoulder. Then as I switch, that hip is still has all the weight on it and they fall over like a ton of bricks on the opposite side. Notice what he does. I go one side, I fail, I go to the opposite side, and now he drops his hip on the opposite side. So as I try to elevate him over my left shoulder, normally everyone stays heavy on their right hip. So they just fall over to the hip immediately. He did a great job of switching his hips, and now he's heavy with the left hip. So even though I control his head position, he controls his hip positioning. So I go one side, he puts his right hip down heavy. Now, as I go to switch to the opposite side, he puts his left hip down heavy. So you see here, he's clearly got his weight over his right hip. His right hip is significantly lower than his left. As I go to lift, now his left hip is significantly lower than his right. Okay? It's very, I don't know if you guys understand how important that is. It's very important. In every other sequence, I've had a 100% success rate going from Sumi one side, Sumi the opposite side. The reason why it failed this time is because he did something with his hips that the rest of the guys didn't. That's very important for you guys to understand. But I got legs inside now, and now we're in Ekguard Ashigarami. Even though I did a good job of doing that, I started with a leg to the outside here, and now notice I switch now from a Sumigeshi to an inside knee position with my switch from a Sumigeshi hook with my foot inside. I relinquish the inside foot positioning, but I gain the inside knee positioning. So the Sumigeshi, you have inside foot position, but you don't have inside knee position. So whenever you have a Sumigeshi hook, back a little bit. Okay, so you see you have the inside foot positioning, but not the inside knee positioning. So I relinquish the inside foot positioning, and I switch the inside foot for the inside knee. Now that inside knee, being connected to his knee, makes space for my bottom leg, my left leg now, to come through and get to the inside position. And now we're inside. So there's interesting change of dynamic in inside foot versus inside knee position. See again, lower body, upper body. So this time I'm trying picks, Bitsugeshi, double Koichi. Now I try to pick, and he does a good job of sprawling his legs back. But the lower body's gone, and the upper body is there. So as the legs move away, now he comes right onto my underhook, overhook, and gets lifted out and over to the side and taken to bottom position. He stands, I go pick. Notice here, this one's with the collar tie. So I push his head over his own foot to get him off balance, and now as he goes to regain balance, I pull him in and enter into X guard. So it's a pull, push, pull dynamic. And that was the end of that round. Next roll against Alex. So notice guys are kind of getting keen now to stepping feet, feinting with the feet, doing a good job here. A lot of these guys actually have my passing instructional, so they do a good job feinting with that lead foot. Now let's take a look at that double Koichi to a 2-on-1. So we go in, I feint the leg, we go double Koichi. As he goes to step out, I capture that ankle, and we're in. So double Koichi, you get the push. He goes to step out, and as he does that, we drag that leg in with the 2-on-1, and sit him down. And now we're in perfect position to come up with the ankles or enter into the legs. All right, let's take a look at that. So, once again, tries to pull the upper body away. So I'm trying to get a hold of the upper body. He posts on my hips. Okay, so now it's clear he wants to disengage. As he goes to post the hips, I pull the collar tie in to start getting heavy on him so he can give me that strong pullback reaction. And the second he does, I push the head over the ankle and move from upper body, lower body, and sit him down to the floor. So you see here, I go collar tie, he goes collar tie, and now I go 2-on-1. So I got 2-on-1 elbow. I look to get him elevated, and now he crosses his ankles. A lot of you have this problem. I get this question all the time. What do I do if a guy has crossed? What do I do if my opponent has crossed ankles? If he has crossed ankles, it means he can't base out with his feet. He has to base out with the hands. Otherwise, he'll fall over. So if he can't base out with the feet, that means he has to base with the hands. That means the elbows are wide. If the elbows are wide, it always means you can enter into the upper body. So you can't enter into the lower body. You're trying to shoot a leg through to Ashigarami. You can't do it because the knees are too pinched together. Whenever you see this, go back to the upper body. Now we come in, we go Hizaguruma, and we take him up and over. Fail to enter into the legs. Because he has his knees pinched, no problem. We go back to the upper body. So he goes collar tie, I go 2-on-1. Legs not there, upper body's there. Start lifting, and take him up and over. Once again, upper to lower body. So I have grips in the arms. He goes to pull that arm away, and it's like clockwork. Notice, the right arm goes to pull away from me. In order to do that, he has to step his left leg forward and plant. There it is. I grab, he steps. He goes to pull out and away. So his left leg is relatively far back here. I grab, he steps. Now, this leg is exposed. Now we go shin to shin. And we're in. Did a good job shooting to the outside of my legs there. Two-on-one arm drag, push, pull, push, pull. Okay, so we come in, we go 2-on-1. He goes to break the grip, we go drag. Then we push him through. He goes to come back on top, we pull the leg out. So always just push, pull down, always grip fighting, constantly have to be active. Constantly harassing the feet. And Sumigashi, get that head over the elbow. You see we come in, we get the head over the elbow, and now we're lifting to the upper left quadrant, as always. Now we get the forehead down to the floor, and he's up and over. And here we go again. So we go shin to shin. We go upper body. We try to go double koichi. That fails. So we got 2-on-1, shin to shin. We go double koichi. That fails. He steps his left leg back. And now we're shin to shin with the right leg. And we can take everything through and enter in. Sorry, he steps his left leg back, or his left leg back. We're shin to shin with our left leg, and now we go through and enter in. He drops to his knees. Take a look at that. So now he's playing a more cagey game. Well, you see, as he drops to his knees, I shoot into Ashi. So I try to harass his feet. I get him to drop down to his knees. Like a double koichi, he sprawls and goes down to his knees, but my 2 feet are still inside. And because they're inside, now I can easily enter my legs in and end up with a strong ashigrami in place. And double koichi. Let's take a look at that. Center line exposed, square feet. Support leg, action leg pulling in line with the toes. You see his foot start somewhere over here and slides out in this direction. Watch the foot. Starts out here somewhere. Here. Watch it drag in this direction through my action leg. Just that small, subtle adjustment. That's what gets him out of balance. And that's the end of this round. Alright, so we got the 5th and final seeded round against Sean. So Sean was playing pretty squared here, and that's why I went. You see a lot of double Koichis here. So let's take a look at this. So we start off double Koichi. As he goes to step a leg back, I go down to the ankle. And again, he tries to step somewhere over here, but I get that additional Kazushi by just giving a little extra pull with the left hand. So you see that little extra pull there? He thought he was going to step, and that created another off balance. Now he cleared that leg, so what do? We switch to the opposite leg. So I have a grip initially on his right leg. He pulls out. Now I go left leg. I make a pass to a 2-on-1. And now we go to a Shiro X for the win. And you see this time he dropped down to his knees, but my feet were inside. So I was able to get to an Ashigarami pretty easily here. So I had 2 feet inside. I went to try to enter into an Ashigarami. He dropped to his knees, but I already have my right knee behind his buttocks. Here, you can't see it. My right knee's behind his buttocks. So that means when he goes to sit the center of gravity away from mine, I can connect my right knee to the back of his hamstring and pull him forward by bringing my knees to my chest. And I can always elevate his center of gravity over mine and give me a clean entrance into Ashigarami. He's down on 2 knees. Double Koichi again. Double Koichi. And back to the leg. So take a look at that. So double Koichi. He falls. As he goes to get up, I try to pick an ankle. He pulls it out, so I switch legs. So he falls. I try to pick that ankle with my left hand. He pulls it out, but he leaves that second leg behind. So now you see just at a subtle Kazushi there. So he pulls it out. You see his leg is planted. So he's ready to come up and put weight on this leg to re-engage. So what do? I pull his foot a few inches past where he thinks he's going to step, up to my hip. Notice this. Watch this foot here. That's all the off balance I need. Now we have a leg inside, and I try to go into more attacks from there, but he manages to stand up and get away. Alright, so now we go double Koichi again. He's off balance. I try to go upper body. I can't, and we go right to the outside with a pick. And again, pulling in line with the toes and getting him off balance. Double Koichi. Again, we get that pullback method where we pull the collar as he goes to pull back and away from us. we go double koichi. So we pull, 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 and push. Now you can tell he's kind of standing more square. Double koichis are aggravating him, constantly harassing the feet, getting him off balance, and this forces him to drop to his knees. Double koichi again, and then pull the leg out. Double koichi again. Got to the ankle. Double koichi, steps out, and the ankle's there. Again, just harassing the feet. And you see here, I was talking about one of the other matches before where I'm technically blocking with the wrong shin. Shin to shin. There. That's just a substitute for the sole of the foot. If you feel like you can't get to the sole of the foot to the inside of the ankle, you can just go with it. You can go shin to shin to block the foot, and then you can make a pass off to the opposite leg like I just did there. And once again, we're in that position which we'll cover in depth with the supine. Arm drag attempt. Double koichi, now shin to shin. And once again, that inside leg position that we'll talk about. This time we're shin to shin. He does a good job out flanking. And you notice here, this is more along the lines of guard retention stuff, but I'll give you guys a little hint. Little insight here. He goes to outflank me. Okay, now you see here, he's starting to step past my hip line, so I have to immediately move out and away and face him. And that gets him back past my hip line and my feet back in front of him. And we get the sumigeshi once again. He comes into me, and we force him into a front roll, and he's up and over. Double koichi, Tiashi, now we're shin to shin. He goes to knee slice, but that stickiness just makes it so hard. Where now I have my legs inside. It's very important to have that initial stickiness. It's very, very crucial. So you guys can't just knee slice past you and pass you right away. See how my hand just glued to his ankle, so he goes through his movement, so then I enter into his legs. shin to shin. Then I start moving to attempted Tsumigashi's, but he's got his feet off the ground and he's leaning back. So I transition from a right arm underhook to a left arm overhook and a right hand wrist. That was under over, and I went to over hook with a wrist grip. Double cliche again. And see, now he's starting to crowd me because he's worried about getting his feet harassed. Right? Because the harassing of the feet is not fun. You're stumbling all over the place, standing on top of the guy. You feel like an idiot. So now he starts crowding me, and as he crowds me, he walks right into an Ashigurami. Simple. And that's the end of the footage for the seated guard there. A lot of stuff going on. All right, always remember, you have to be disciplined with constantly harassing your partner's feet and creating kazushi to get limb extension so that you can go into either sweeps or attacks. And the basis of doing this is constant and relentless, intelligent grip fighting. If you noticed, I never accepted any grips which I thought put me in a disadvantageous position for long amounts of time. All right, I was constantly grip fighting the entire time, and as I was grip fighting, my feet were working to harass my partner's feet. Upper body, lower body, leg to leg. Tsumigashis, going back to knee picks. There's almost an infinite amount of things that you can do and almost an infinite amount of reaction that your partner can give you. So, this was something that I've been looking forward to for a long time, and something that's actually very hard to teach because you don't want to cross the lines of doing a full guard retention instructional mixed in with an open guard instructional. It's just way too much information at once. So we have open guard, and next, obviously, you saw some guard retention things there where guys passed my hip line or passed my shoulder line. How I didn't get past. That's the stuff we'll all be doing in the future. Okay, so hopefully you guys enjoyed it.